So Liverpool moving top of the Premier League, albeit perhaps just briefly, with a 3-1 win over Wolves at Molineux today. It's been 13 points from a possible 15 picked up across the first 5 games of the season to make it a really strong start to the new campaign. And I think what's been most impressive from Liverpool's perspective is that they really haven't had things all their own way in games so far. So many tests they've had to come through. I'm thinking about the red cards that they've been shown, also the fact that they conceding early in games, and in the case of today's game, it's been the fact that they were handed a 12:30 kickoff away from home directly after an international break. So a really, really difficult test for this one, and I think you could really see that actually in Liverpool's start. They were really poor at the start of this game and gave Wolves the initiative, and that first half really, you'd say the hosts kind of dominated, but the second half Liverpool worked things out, they got going, they used that real squad depth that they've got, and came through 3-1 winners, and in convincing fashion. They were utterly dominant in that second half in a similar way, or even more so than Wolves had been in the first, and so come through as deserving winners. And as I say, that makes it a really, really impressive start to the season, a strong start and a really encouraging start from the fans' perspective, that sort of strong mentality and overcoming setbacks appears to be back in the team, as much as that obvious quality we've seen in terms of Liverpool winning those games as well. Now I'll just go through, as usual, the team from back to front and assess the performances across the whole team, and I start with the goalkeeper, of course. Now Allister, he's been a little bit too busy, or more busy than he would like in some games this season, but I don't think that was very much the case here. Although Wolves were kind of dominant in that first half, Allister wasn't too overly busy, didn't have too much to do. They weren't massively turning that dominance into shots. There was one opportunity that Wolves missed out on where Cunha was at the back post and didn't even get a connection on the shot. That would have really tested Allister from close range, but otherwise he didn't have a lot to do. As I say, Wolves not really making the most of that dominance and really testing him, so a quiet game from his perspective. As always, of course, he was really good with the ball at his feet and being that extra man in build-up, and that is always helpful for Liverpool, particularly when they were coming up against that low block of Wolves. You need to go over the top sometimes, particularly when they're pressing you high as well. So Allister really, really useful in terms of that. Now moving into the defence, there was a change obviously at right back with Trent Alexander-Arnold being out with that hamstring injury, so Joe Gomez was the man who came in. And I thought it was interesting, the start of the game, he was almost trying to be the Trent Alexander-Arnold, be a direct replacement and moving into that role in midfield and moving the ball in that way. And one thing you would say about Joe Gomez, he's a very good player, but he's not got that quality in possession that Trent Alexander-Arnold has. So I think that sort of made it a little bit difficult for him in the early stages of the game. But I thought he grew into it massively. Liverpool made some tweaks at half-time, and I thought that really helped Joe Gomez out. And I thought by the end of the game, he'd had a really decent game. I think, even when Conor Bradley comes back from injury, I think Joe Gomez has got a good shout to be that backup right back, just because I think Conor Bradley physically maybe can't match what Joe Gomez can get through in games, and that strength he's got, ability to win headers at the back post as well. So I think there really is a role and a way into the team for Joe Gomez there at right back, so I'm sure we'll be seeing a little bit more of him, particularly as Trent Alexander-Arnold. We don't expect to be back soon until the start of next week as well, so maybe there's another game for him in midweek at right back in the Europa League as well. Moving on in the defence, talk about Joel Matip's performance. I thought it wasn't a great start to the game. You may remember he was quite poor here at Molineux last season. Thought he had a really, really poor game as Liverpool were convincingly beaten, and I thought, oh no, here we go again. Maybe with the opening goal in this one, he was too easily beaten out wide for the cross that was put in to set up the goal. And I thought, he looked like he was on his heels. He was really slow moving in it. Yeah, so it was a really difficult start to the game, but I thought he sort of overcame that, and by the end of the game, again, similar to Gomez, sort of finished it quite strongly, won his headers, used the ball really nicely to, we know he's got quite a decent passing range in terms of firing the ball through the line, so did quite a lot of that, and as I say, won his headers and won his challenges and sort of helped Liverpool see it out fairly serenely. He was part of that big improvement that happened in the second half. Now he was partnered, of course, by a bit of a surprise pick really in the defence with Jarell Quansah. We knew that Ibrahim Konate had been in training over the past couple of days, but Jurgen Klopp took a brave decision really. He didn't risk Konate's fitness by throwing him in a little bit too early. He went with Jarell Quansah instead, and I thought Jarell Quansah for me was up there with a possible man of the match. I thought a fantastic performance from him. I mean, he'd been impressive in pre-season and during his cameos in the early stages of this season, but to come in for a start in difficult circumstances, as it proved to be as well, with Wolves making a really good start to that first half, I thought Quansah showed real composure and brilliance, and his numbers kind of backed that up as well. He got 3 tackles, 2 interceptions, 5 clearances. I thought he was probably Liverpool's outstanding defender, which for a 20-year-old sort of says a lot. And there's been questions asked, haven't there, about Liverpool's defensive depth that they've got there, particularly the decision not to sign a centre-half this summer. but you've got Quansah there, and I thought a really good start to him, maybe proving that he can be that option. It'd be interesting to see how much more football he gets across the remainder of this season. You know, will he play that Europa League game that's coming up? I'd have had him penciled in if it wasn't for Konate coming back from injury. But we'll have to see whether he gets another game, because he did get forced off late in this one with a bit of cramp, which you would expect from a youngster who's making his first Premier League start. So, but really excited to see a lot more of him. I thought a really impressive and strong performance from him. Now, alongside him in the defence, at left back was Andy Robertson, who was wearing the captain's armband today in the absence of Virgil van Dijk and Trent Alexander-Arnold. And again, I thought an impressive performance from him across the 90 minutes. I thought he got through a lot of work. Questions have been asked about him in terms of, does he suit that role in the way Liverpool's shape is these days, because he's playing more as a centre-half than maybe a rampaging full-back who's looking to get forward and put crosses in. But I thought a really good performance from him, a brilliant finish for his goal, and the fact he was in the position to score that, I think, says a lot about the energy and the running he put into this game. A real captain's performance from him. So really good, and you know, encouraging signs that Andy Robertson is sort of getting used to that role a little bit more now, and we're seeing that a lot more from him, that he looks like he's a bit, you know, adapting to it a little bit better. So really exciting times, really, because I think, you know, he's a quality player, we don't doubt that, but I think he was a player who, if Liverpool had signed a sort of left-footed centre-back, his position maybe would have been under a bit of pressure this season, but so he'll be keen to prove that he can fulfil that role, and I think we are seeing signs of that so far. Just moving to midfield now. In the holding role, I expected, to be honest, that Wataru Endo would maybe start this game. I thought it was a good opportunity for him to come in and get some minutes, but instead Jurgen Klopp went with Alexis McAllister, who was a bit of a surprise pick, really, because he'd been playing for Argentina twice over the international break, and one of those games was in Bolivia, playing at high altitude. He had to take on oxygen after the games because those altitudes are so difficult to play in. And then he's being asked to come into Liverpool and play in a position that in Jurgen Klopp's system requires such energy, arguably the most demanding position in the entire setup. And you could really see the signs that he was struggling in that first half. He ended up getting hooked at half time because he was struggling so much. He just didn't look like he had the energy, which again, not his fault and no real surprise. He was misplacing passes because, you know, the mental fatigue was clearly there. So I thought a poor decision really from Jurgen Klopp to start him, and he probably got away with that one really, with Liverpool winning. But he rectified it at half time and dragged McAllister off, and I thought that was that was a good decision really, and the right decision, because he was really struggling in there. And I don't think we'll see the manager again ask, you know, McAllister to come back from an international break and then play an early kick-off again, because the travel that's involved and the fatigue that was clear in his performance today, I think, yeah, he won't be making that decision again. Elsewhere in midfield, Curtis Jones, I was a big advocate for him playing this game. But I thought he had a really quiet one. He's usually a lot more busy and a lot more involved. Again, you know, like a lot of the team, I thought a huge improvement second half, and he actually was quite a big part of what Liverpool did in terms of turning the screw a little bit on Wolves and really penning them in and keeping the ball and winning it high up the pitch. So did really well in that, but he was so quiet in that first half as well. So a bit of a mixed performance, but again, he's still sort of youngish player, isn't he, finding his way. Still think he's got a big role to play this season. And alongside him, Dominic Szoboszlai. I thought today was a performance where we maybe saw that he actually is human. I think he's been absolutely flawless since he's come into this Liverpool team. But again, in that first half, like so many others, was really a bit of a shocking performance really from him. He couldn't seem to complete his passes. I think his pass accuracy was around 70% by the end of the first half. So misplacing passes left, right, and centre. And I also thought we had a little bit of culpability around the goal, maybe not getting goal side of his man and trying to just nick the ball, and that leaves Matip exposed. So you could maybe criticise him around that. But again, like everyone else, second half, big improvement, and we see he's got such quality on the ball. He'll take it in any position. He'll take it in tight positions. He'll come deep for it and really get Liverpool on the front foot. So he did a lot of that. So again, you know, you saw by the end of the game, really, you know, the quality that he possessed and how big a player, an important player he's going to be for Liverpool across the remainder of this season. Moving into the forward line, Mohamed Salah, like everyone else, starved of possession really in that first half, but then ends the game with 3 assists. And you know, his emergence as a creator, I think, is fascinating. It's something that, you know, Jurgen Klopp was criticised really for trying to turn him into a creator, if you remember, and putting him in that position where he's maybe getting into less goal scoring positions, but he's being asked to create for others more. But he really has taken to it like a duck to water. I mean, he's 3 assists today. That puts him on 5 for the season. That Premier League record, if you remember, that's shared by Kevin De Bruyne and Thierry Henry, is 20 assists in a single season. Now, he's got quite a few games left to maybe match that, or maybe, you know, set the record himself. He's already on 5 assists for the season, so really interested to see how that plays out, because he seems to be setting up his teammates every single week. What a player he is, by the way. Incredible goal scorer, incredible creator. He really is the full package in terms of a forward. Elsewhere in the forward line, Cody Gakpo gets a goal that brings Liverpool back into the game, but a bit of a mixed performance from him. I thought he didn't offer enough threat in behind in that first half. He wanted to come deep too much, and I think Wolves found that a lot easier to manage, because when he was coming deep, he was coming into a congested midfield area, and they really, that's what Wolves wanted to do. They wanted to close space, and it gave them the opportunity to win the ball. And I don't think it was a huge surprise that he got moved into midfield when the sub happened at half time. Luis Diaz coming on from Allister, and Gakpo dropping back. I didn't think that was a huge shock, but also then that immediately after he scored his goal, he was taken off, because not a hugely effectual performance from Gakpo, apart from obviously he gets the goal, and that's important, and he works his socks off as usual, but yeah, not his best performance for Liverpool, I would say. Elsewhere in the front three, I thought Jota was arguably for me that in the first half the best out of that front three. I thought he was the one who looked the most likely to make something happen. He seems to be picking pockets on that left hand side quite easily, and although he didn't really make anything with it, he did look dangerous. And as I say, the other forwards were maybe struggling a little bit more than him, so not a bad performance, but he was, you know, again, a victim of those early substitutions and brought off when, you know, he maybe thought that he could influence the game a little bit more. So not a poor performance from Jota, but, you know, he'll have felt like he could have done maybe more with some of the positions he got into in that first half. Now, talk about the substitutions as well, or the substitutes rather. Diaz coming on at half time, I thought he changed a lot for Liverpool. He was a big part of why they ended up getting on the front foot, and they were so dominant in that second half. He's such an important player. I think him being left out was purely a result of the fact he'd been travelling over the international break, and that grueling travel, the effects of that on his body. So I think he really does have that nailed down, that left hand side as the first choice there, and he showed that why that is the case in his performance in the second half here. I thought really impressive, really, you know, dribbling. He's dangerous, isn't he? He can pick a pass, and the running he offers in behind as well, which Liverpool weren't doing enough of in the first half. So yeah, a brilliant performance from him off the bench. In terms of the other substitutes, I thought Harvey Elliott is making a bit of a sort of trademark of this, coming on and being really impressive in his cameos, isn't he? I think, you know, he's been a big feature of Liverpool, sort of looking strong from the bench in games so far this season. And again here, he was really creative. He got on the ball in difficult positions, helped relieve pressure in that way, and then he gets his goal. I'm not sure if that one's going to go down maybe as an own goal because of the deflection it takes, but it was a good strike, got himself in a good area, and he continually did that when he got on the pitch. So I thought really impressive cameo for him, which, as I say, is becoming a bit of a hallmark for him this season. In terms of the other substitutes, Nunez, not his day in terms of goal scoring opportunities. He had one chance that I thought the keeper did well to come out and smother, but he was dangerous, and we know he's going to get shots. He's going to create opportunities. He also creates doubts in defenders' minds, and I think he did a lot of that. It wasn't his best performance on the ball. I think it looked a bit clumsy at times. But he creates danger, as I say, and I think that's, you know, an effective part of his armoury when he's coming on into games, is that it creates a little bit of chaos around him, and that creates space for others. In terms of the other substitutes, Ibrahim Konate came on, obviously didn't miss a beat. He was a replacement for Quansah. I'm sure he'll be straight back in as one of the two first choice centre halves, possibly alongside Virgil van Dijk now his suspension's over. A brilliant defender, and came on in a moment where Liverpool could have ended up under pressure, but did really well to help them see out the win. And the other substitute was, of course, Ryan Gravenberch. He wasn't given very long. He had a little half opportunity at the end, which was interesting to see him bursting into the box and getting into that position, but really early days for him in terms of his Liverpool career. Very excited to see a little bit more of him. Hopefully that will come in the Europa League game. Now, that completes really going through all the players and the performances. As I say, a really important win for Liverpool, and good for them to face another difficult test and come through it. We're seeing really the return of Jurgen Klopp's mentality monsters, and it bodes really well for the remainder of this season. So obviously more matches to come, plenty more Europa League action to come as well. So we'll be doing this again, you know, previewing the match with team news, and also offering my post-match thoughts as well after that game as well. So please do like and subscribe so you can keep across all this content. I keep mentioning it, but we're very, very close to 10,000 subs. So let's try and get over the line as soon as possible. And yeah, I'll see you soon.